Hello friends, I hope that you are doing well. I feel like I have not done a vlog in a while, so I thought that I would use this long weekend that I have to do just that. So I know I look kind of like a mess. I just got back from a walk along the river. Eventually I will shower, I promise, but for now, we're just going with this because I don't have anywhere to go. It's a long weekend. In Austria, today is Ascension Day. We get most religious holidays, and by religious I mean Christian and more specifically Catholic holidays off. And tomorrow, my school calendar says it's Bridging Day, and I thought that that was just some obscure holiday that I had never heard of, but I was looking it up so I could explain it to you. And apparently, Bridging Day is a day between a holiday and a weekend that people often get off because employers anticipate that lots of people will take it off anyway. So it's not really a holiday, it's just an extra day that we get off. So anyway, I have a 4-day weekend this weekend. May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month in the United States. So for the past few years, I have tried to spend the month of May reading books by authors of Asian descent, Pacific Islander descent if I can find them. So I thought that I would do a little vlog of my reading over these 4 days that I have off and try to squeeze in as many books by authors of Asian descent as I can. So basically, I have pulled every single book that I have here in Austria from my shelves that I haven't already read that is by an Asian author. And this weekend, I am planning to only read these books with one exception, and that is I try to read a nonfiction book every month as well, and this month I have chosen the book Rise, which is about Asian American pop culture in the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, and it is a beast of a book. It is like 500 pages, the physical copy, but my ebook says it's like 1,400 pages. So anyway, I am reading that in ebook form, and I'm still only a third of the way through it, and May is almost over, so I am going to let myself keep working on that along with whatever I choose to read from this stack. So let me show you our options. Again, I do not know which of these I will end up reading. Obviously not all of them, but I don't know what I'm going to be in the mood for the next 4 days, so it'll be a surprise to me and a surprise to you. So let's look at what we have. So I have Outrun the Moon by Stacey Lee, and at first I thought sometime during the month of May I want to do a reading vlog where I read historical fiction because I have 3 historical fiction books by Asian American authors that have been on my TBR for a while that I just still haven't read for some reason, and one of them is Outrun the Moon, and the other 2 are Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Melinda Lowe and We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee. And I want to read all of these, but I just struggle so much with reading historical fiction, and I just don't think I can read 3 historical fiction books in one vlog. So ideally, I will read at least one of these over the course of this weekend. We will cross our fingers for that, but we shall see. So the rest of what I have: Sister of the Bollywood Bride by Nandini Bajpayee. I love A Match Made in Mehendi, which is her other young adult book. I love it with my whole heart. I thought it was like a picture-perfect rom-com. It was so funny and the voice was so good and I loved it so much. So of course I immediately bought this when it came out. I just haven't gotten to it yet. And this one, the concept doesn't sound as good to me as A Match Made in Mehendi, but I feel like if it's the same writer, I'll still really like it. So I just have to give it a chance. And I feel like this could be some lighter fare in comparison to the 3 historical fiction novels, which all cover some kind of heavy stuff. So it could be a good counterpart to those. So that's another option. I also have The Ivory Key by Akshaya Raman. I don't know if fantasy is in the cards for this weekend. I have a couple of fantasy novels, and again, I want to read all of them, but fantasy does tend to take me a little bit longer to get through, and my goal for this weekend is just kind of to get through as many books as I can, which sounds terrible, but I just don't know if I will be able to get through one of these fantasy books. But it is on the list of possibilities. I have it here in physical form, and who knows where the weekend will take us. Next, I have Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. Same thing. It's a really intriguing sounding fantasy. I really want to read it, but it's almost 400 pages long, and a 400-page book is a lot. And I do have things that I would like to accomplish this weekend aside from reading. Whether they will happen, again, remains to be seen. So I can't just spend my 4 days only reading, which is why I will not get to all of the fantasies, or maybe even any of the fantasies in this pile of possibilities. Then we move on to a sci-fi book, Ignite the Stars by Maura Milan. This is another one that just sounds so intriguing to me. I love pretty much any book set in space, and the fact that the main character of this one is like a famous outlaw in the space world. And of course she has to it's a school book as well, and she has to have adventures and escape and all of that, and so it sounds really interesting. I really this came out in 2018. I've wanted to read it since then. I just haven't gotten to it. Will this be the weekend it happens? We shall see. And then Sky Hunter by Marie Lu. I tend to read Marie Lu's books automatically without questioning, because I have loved so many of them, even when they don't sound like what I'm going to want to read. But Sky Hunter, even though I like sci-fi, I don't tend to like sci-fi with aliens, so I am just not sure how I feel about this one, but I do own it, and it is here on my shelves, so maybe this will be the weekend that I read Sky Hunter. We shall see. No one knows. Then I have Harley in the Sky by Akemi Dawn Bowman. This is sort of in a similar vein. I really loved Akemi Dawn Bowman's first 2 YA novels. I thought they were great, but the circus, like aliens, is not something that really appeals to me. So I started this when I first got the book, and I got maybe 100 pages in, and I just wasn't into it at the time. I brought it with me all the way to Austria, so obviously I saw something in it, so maybe this will be the weekend we read Harley in the Sky. Then we have Freedom Swimmer by Y. Chim. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so I do apologize. I honestly don't remember what this is about. I was sent this, I didn't choose it on my own. But still somehow I brought it with me to Austria. I don't remember why or what my rationale was, but it's by an author of Asian descent, and it is on my shelf, so it is in this list of possibilities. Everything Sad is Untrue by Daniel Nayeri. This one, The Prince, The Newbery, one of those, I think The Prince. And again, it's been on my radar for a while. I want to read it. It does sound kind of sad though, and I don't know if I'm in the mood for a sad book, but it is a possibility for this weekend. More Than Just a Pretty Face by Syed Masood. I just read Sway With Me, which is his more recent novel, and I did enjoy that, even though the characters they both had very interesting personalities. But this one also sounds interesting, and it advertises itself as for fans of Becky Albertalli and Jenny Han. And if you know me at all, you know that those are 2 of my all-time favorite authors. So if this is for fans of them, then it is for me. So maybe this weekend I will get to it. Then we have Made in Korea by Sarah Suk, and this is about people who are running a K-beauty business out of their locker, and then there's like a competing K-beauty business that comes to the school, and I just think that that's a really interesting concept. So I am really looking forward to this one. Again, I don't know why I haven't read it yet because it sounds like absolutely right up my alley, but here it is. Maybe we'll get to it this weekend. Jade Fire Gold by June C.L. Tan. Again, because it's a fantasy, I am just not sure that I'm going to be able to do it this weekend. This one is over 400 pages. It's almost 450 pages. Yeah, 449 pages. I just don't know if I can get through a fantasy that lengthy, as interesting as it sounds, and still read some of the other things that I want to read this weekend. But it is still a possibility. We can't rule anything out at this point, so there it is. Not Here to Be Liked by Michelle Quach. This one also sounds like a really interesting concept in terms of feminism and gender discrimination and how boys are treated differently than girls, how boys can get to positions of power even if they're wholly mediocre. So this sounds super, super interesting, and I really want to read it, and I hope to get to it this weekend. And the last one that is a physical possibility is The Bronze Beast by Roshni Chokshi. I really do want to read this, like, very, very much, but it's been quite some time. I'm pretty sure that I read both The Gilded Wolves and The Silver Serpents during Asian American History Month, Heritage Month last year, so it's been a full year since I read those, and I really would like to do a reread of those two before I read the third one, which I just don't know is possible. I mean, I don't physically have the first two, first of all, and I would rather be able to savor that experience and set aside some time when I can just read those three in a row uninterrupted. So although The Bronze Beast is a possibility, I don't think that I'm going to get to it this weekend. So those are all the physical books by authors of Asian descent that I have on my shelves here, and that is the stack that I will be choosing books from for my reading this weekend, along with Rise, the nonfiction book I talked about. So now I'm going to go have some coffee, maybe take a shower, and figure out what my first book is going to be, and I will catch up with you later. Evening now. I have done some reading, took a nap, generally not been super productive, but I did finish a book. I decided that my first book for the day would be We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee, and as expected, it was that, combination of great and terrible that you get when you're reading a book about the horrific racism of your country, but it's done in a nice way. Not a nice way, but it's done very well. There are so many historical fiction books set during World War II. But I think I could count on maybe not one hand, maybe two hands, the ones that focus on the incarceration of Japanese Americans in the United States, which is, of course, horrific. And like, I feel like it's glossed over in US history curriculums, where it's just like, yeah, we were at war with the Japanese, so obviously Japanese Americans needed to be sent to internment camps because they couldn't be trusted. It's logical, blah, blah, blah. At least I feel like from the small, insignificant amount that was taught in US history, that's what I got from it. Now that I have, spent the last few years really learning about how much more terrible and racist and white supremacist the US is, like, of course it doesn't make sense to incarcerate a group of people because of the actions of the Japanese government. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that rant. The book was really well written. I loved the idea of telling the story from 14 different perspectives. The only thing that I kind of wish was different was I just wanted more from certain characters, and so I kind of wish, instead of the majority of characters having kind of a big chunk, one big chunk within the book, I would have loved to have seen shorter chapters at different time periods repeating the perspectives. So like, instead of just having one character's one perspective in the book, have them have 5 chapters at different times during the period of incarceration or whatever. That's really not the fault of the author. That's just like my personal preference and my like selfishness in wanting to spend more time with certain characters. But like I said, I loved getting the perspective of all of those different characters and, just showcasing the diverse perspectives within the Japanese American community and those who wanted to remain loyal to Japan and those who like considered themselves Americans and didn't understand why this was happening, and those who were willing to sign up to fight in World War II. Just all of that was wonderful. Of course I cried. I literally sobbed like a baby during one particular section of the book that I'm not going to go into more detail about because it's a big spoiler, but it was horrendous. I mean, I expected it. I knew from a certain point in the book that something was probably going to happen that I wasn't going to like, and I just was like so anxious for like a good chunk of the book, like, when is it coming? I know it's gonna happen. And it did happen, and I was sad. But anyway, this book was a National Book Award finalist. I can't remember if it won the National Book Award or not. I don't think it did. I think it was just a finalist, but I think that honor is well deserved. I think if you are like me and tire of the constant historical fiction that is about World War II, you should make an exception for this book because it is worthwhile and it provides a perspective that is not often covered. And I do not think that I am going to do any more reading today. That one book just sort of drained me emotionally, and I need to spend the rest of the evening watching mindless television. So I will catch up with you tomorrow. given that I am in basically the same location, that I have not moved in the past 24 hours, but I promise I have done things since I last talked to you. So today was mostly a relaxing, loungy sort of day, but I did read another book. Today I read Made in Korea by Sarah Suk, and that is the one in which the main character and her cousin run a K-beauty business out of their locker at school. And then a new kid comes to school and he starts a business that he says is a K-pop business, but really it's another K-beauty business, and now there's a rivalry between the two of them. And I have a lot of feelings about this because I didn't have a lot of sympathy or empathy for the male main character slash love interest. I don't, like, this is just me personally, I resonated so much more with Valerie, I'm pretty sure, I know, I just read this morning, Valerie's perspective, and you know, I am sure that I've mentioned this before because it is one of my biggest pet peeves. I really dislike parents in YA books who are unsupportive, generally abusive. Any of those things really like drives me up a wall, and I did not like Valerie's mom. I hated how she treated Valerie, and I just, from the very beginning, I loved Valerie's ambition, I loved her relationship with her grandmother, I loved all of that, and I just kind of wanted to smack Wes, the male main character slash love interest, in the face a lot. Like, yes, he also had parents who were not the most supportive. I just thought that he was kind of a whiny jerk and could have gone about things in a different way, and I just didn't like him. I was not rooting for them as a couple, but it's fine. It was still a fun book to read. I enjoyed it. I don't feel like it was a waste of time. I felt that it was a really interesting concept. I didn't know about K-beauty in high school. I'm not sure if, I mean, obviously K-beauty, like, beauty products in Korea have been a thing for as long as beauty products in every country have been a thing, but I don't think that trend was really that prevalent in America when I was in high school. But if someone were selling beauty products out of their locker in my high school, maybe I would have been interested in beauty products. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting concept. I'm not saying Valerie didn't have flaws, but I just really liked her as a person, and I liked her growth and her relationship with... So, sorry, there are pigeons chasing one another off my balcony, like literally right behind the camera right now, so sorry if I am distracted. Anyway, I spent the morning reading that book. I made myself a late breakfast, and then I spent the rest of the day watching television shows. Now I am thinking about dinner and what I'm gonna do for the rest of the evening, which will probably not be a whole lot. Like, should I start another book? Maybe. Am I going to start another book? Let's be real, probably not. And also, I haven't read any of Rise, which is the nonfiction book I mentioned yesterday, which is really what I should spend some time making progress on, but I am just not in the mood. So I'm probably just going to hang out with my cats, who are very interested in the pigeon fights happening on the balcony. Minerva is right next to me and she is just staring very intently at them right now. So yeah, I think that my evening will be pretty boring, pretty uneventful. I don't know, like, part of me wants to go out for a walk, but the other part of me who just showered is like, let's not go out and let the grime of the city get on us right now. So yeah. Either way, this is probably going to be my singular update for the day. Read one book, watched some TV, ate some food. That's about it. I hope you all are having a lovely day, whether it is Friday when you're watching this or some other day of the week, and I will catch up with you tomorrow. Good morning, friends. It is Sunday. I just woke up like half an hour ago. I apologize for not updating anything yesterday, and also for this lighting. I know that I am backlit, but to be honest, I just can't be bothered at this moment in time to select a place with ideal lighting right now. I am gonna have some coffee and a pastry and watch some YouTube, so I'm sitting at my desk, and my desk is in front of the windows, so you get backlit me, and I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Anyway, pigeons are on the balcony, and you can tell that by Molly's squeaking. So yeah, I did not do any talking yesterday, but I did read. I read the entirety of Ignite the Stars by Maura Milan, and I loved it. I don't read sci-fi very often, but every time I do, I am just like drawn back into it and reminded why I really love space operas in particular. And so I think I am actually going to abandon my initial plans of only reading the physical books I have and read the sequel, Eclipse the Skies, which I don't have a physical copy of, but which I did check out from my library immediately upon finishing Ignite the Stars. So, Ignite the Stars is about a girl, Aya, who is like the most notorious criminal in the galaxy, and basically war has been going on in this galaxy forever and ever. She is from like places that were not part of the, I don't remember if they call it an empire or a collective or a whatever, but those guys, the powerful ones, the empire, have been, you know, colonizing fringe planets and less powerful forever and ever, and when some fought back, there was a huge war. She fought against them. She is notorious for lots of death and mayhem and theft and all of that, and she finally gets caught, and rather than like executing her, they let her choose between 120 years on a super dangerous penal colony planet that's home to all of the rapists in the society, or a 20-year contract with their Royal Star Force, including 2 years at this military academy. So that's obviously what she goes with, but of course her plan is to escape as soon as possible. Then she meets some people and they're not so bad, and then there's a huge twist in terms of who is actually doing a lot of the bad things in the world, like killing and harming innocent, I don't want to say humans because, you know, it's space and everyone's from a different planet and is not necessarily human, but different beings, and enslaving different beings and all of these things, and it's just, it's no good. There's a lot of disaster.
luckily the first book did not end on like a super awful cliffhanger. Like there was enough resolution to not drive you crazy, but I still really want to read the next book in the series, to the point that like there's a lot of other stuff I should be doing today. I should be cleaning my apartment, I should be getting prepared for the work week, and I'm just like, you know, if I'm going to read Eclipse the Skies, but I also really want to read these physical books I have, maybe I should just read all day and read 2 books instead of 1. That's what my brain is thinking, instead of, you know, being a productive adult and vacuuming and doing laundry and making sure I'm prepared for the classes I'm teaching tomorrow, all of which sounds much, much less appealing. Anyhow, so I feel like that's all the update I have for you. Like I said, it's morning, I just woke up, I haven't done anything other than feed the cats and make coffee. So I'm gonna, you know, do the Wordle, watch a YouTube video, and then get started on some reading, and I will catch up with you later.
Hello my friends, welcome to the end of the vlog. It is actually Monday afternoon at this point, so I finished up technically my reading for this vlog yesterday, but I didn't feel like updating last night, and then I went to work all day today because in Austria this Monday is not a holiday. Instead, the Thursday before the weekend is, and we had, like I mentioned before, a bridging day to give us a 4-day weekend. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is that yesterday I did in fact deviate from my plan to read only the physical books by Asian authors in my current collection and read the sequel to Ignite the Stars by Maura Milan, which is called Eclipse the Skies by Maura Milan. And like, I'm glad that I read the sequel because I really wanted to stay in that world and I wanted to keep reading sci-fi. But whoo boy was I mad. Obviously, I am not going to give away any spoilers because there's cat hair floating through the air. Because obviously it's a sequel. I don't want to give away details to any of you who might choose to read the book, and I don't want to give away the ending. So all I will say is that something life-altering happens to someone in the book who I cared a lot about, and I am not okay with it. Other than that, I believe that Eclipse the Skies was a really good sequel. I felt that it was very full of action. I also felt that somehow it was even more stressful than the first book with everything that happened. I think that some characters just, their personalities took a turn for the worse. I felt that it was really, like, I understand it's a trauma response, right? The way that they're acting is not necessarily indicative of their moral character of who they are as a person, but I still was unhappy with the choices, and I think that they led to even more death and destruction than needed to happen. So that's my own personal issue with one character in particular. I also just was really sad at the amount of death and destruction in general. Like, yes, I know that there is an intergalactic conflict happening, and death and destruction are the result of colonization and imperialism and war, and I understand all of those things in my brain, but in my heart, that's not what I wanted. Again, that was a tangent. Would I still recommend this duology to people who enjoy sci-fi, particularly space operas? Yes, I thought that it was good. I enjoyed getting back into the world of spacey sci-fi, and I felt that it was an enjoyable reading experience throughout both books, even if the second one gave me so much anxiety and stress. So, to recap, I was able to read 4 books over the course of the long weekend. I read We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee, which is a historical fiction about 14 teenagers who were in incarceration camps in the United States during World War II, and that was outstanding. Then I read Made in Korea by Sarah Suk, which was a perfectly enjoyable contemporary read. And then I finished out the weekend by reading the sci-fi duology of Ignite the Stars and Eclipse the Skies. So, I am hoping that I will finish maybe one more book by an Asian American author over the course of today and tomorrow to end out Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I don't know if I'm going to get through my nonfiction choice of Rise. I did not make much progress on that, and there are still a lot of pages left, but I will keep trucking away. Although, once June starts, then I switch from reading authors of Asian descent to reading queer books. So, we will see what happens. I am actually also participating in a readathon during the month of June, the Whatever You Want-a-thon, or Whatever-thon for short, that is hosted by Maddie at Book Browsing Blog, and soon, possibly even before this vlog, depending on how I feel about editing, there will be another video talking about everything that I am hoping to read in June for both my goal of reading only queer authors in the month of June because it's Pride Month, and fulfilling different prompts for the Whatever-thon to earn lots of points for the team that I finally chose, which is the Shelf Slayers. So, I think that's all I have to say. I am going to wrap up this vlog. I know that wasn't super interesting this time, but I hope that you enjoyed hearing about what I was reading. If you want to tell me what you read over the weekend or what you are currently reading, I would love if you would leave me a comment, and I will catch up with you later.